Today's Take 5 with the Saints is John Bosco here on January 31st. Father Bosco was a priest who was known particularly for his interest in the poor and underprivileged in a time of Italian society in the 19th century, where essentially those who were cast out of the parish and secular system were often left without a hope, and he was one who provided and worked tirelessly to make sure that they had a hope of material gain as well as a knowledge of God's love. Our scripture that is attached for today's celebration is Isaiah chapter 59, verses 14 through 16. Justice is turned back, and righteousness stands at a distance. For truth stumbles in the public square, and uprightness cannot enter. Truth is lacking, and whoever turns from evil is despoiled. The Lord saw it, and it displeased him that there was no justice. He saw that there was no one, and was appalled that there was no one to intervene. So his own arm brought him victory, and his righteousness upheld him. John Bosco, who you might also hear him referred to as Juan Bosco or Giovanni Bosco, was born near Turin, Italy in 1815 and was known from an early age by his parents and by those who were his friends as being a boy of extreme kindness and gentle disposition, so much so that he was often beaten up for his excess kindness. It was a testament in many ways to the society in which he was a part of, an Italian society that was, let's just say, had become fairly rigid. And if you had money, you did well. If you were able to hold down a job, you did okay. But there were a number of families throughout the Italian cities and countryside who were unable to fend for themselves and were often forgotten, both by the state but also by the church. But life changed for John Bosco when he was 9 as he received a vision where both Christ and the Virgin Mary came to him and among many things encouraged him to be kind, obedient, and hardworking. And if he held to these three traits, there would be a wonderful future that would be open to him. Well, he took that vision very seriously. And his career ultimately led him to the priesthood. But as a young man, following this vision, he often enjoyed going to the traveling circuses that came through. And he learned a number of tricks, including how to juggle and walking a tightrope and a variety of magic tricks. And he often had his own little exhibition where the only charge for people to come in was to join him at the end of the performance in a set of prayers. Well, as you can imagine, someone who can do all of these tricks brought a lot of attention to himself, particularly from young boys who were enthralled by his performance. As he grew up and got into the church and became a parish priest, instead of forming children through the catechism of the parishes, which he believed to be very ineffective, one, in the fact it didn't offer really juicy or relevant content, and two, it did not reach a sizable portion of the population who were people who simply did not come to church or in some ways were excluded from church. And as such, he went into places where boys and young men would hang out and met with them and offered the gospel to them and taught them and offered love and kindness instead of the stern discipline that many of these boys were facing within their parish schools if they even attended one. Because of the fact that he was so notorious for bringing in, quote, undesirables to the parishes sometimes for catechism. In fact, at one of the schools where he was the priest and the chaplain, he brought what were known as ragamuffin boys to come and hear the prayers and Sunday service and the catechism, and ultimately he was fired for that reason. But undeterred, John Bosco continued to reach out and spend time in the neighborhoods with the poor and underprivileged, established orphanages for young boys, and began setting up schools around the Italian countryside. And in fact, he became known as the father of education among certain parts of the Italian cities and countryside. But probably the most important thing to know about John Bosco and relevant for our life in the church today is that he was a man who constantly was reaching out beyond the walls of the existing church and recognizing that it was not the church's job to pull people into them, but rather for the church to go out and minister to people where they were. Some of them started coming to church, great, but if the church did not do its duty in going to where the people were or to where the harvest was plentiful, then the church was not doing its job. Bosco, along with his pastoral and catechetical education that he would give to those, what also was very, very important for him to offer traditional education to make sure that the poor boys and men of Italy had the same opportunities as those who had more resources at their disposal. So today we celebrate the life of a wonderful man, a wonderful priest, whose life was totally centered around the vision he received as a young boy to be kind and hardworking and generous to each other and to other people. So, that is John Bosco. Tune in tomorrow as I will have Emily Doan here with us, who will be giving you tomorrow's Saint of the Day, Saint Bridget. Tune in tomorrow, and I will see you again soon. Take care.